7 o'clock. Call this meeting of the Goshen Board of Education to order. Cinco, you call the roll.
Mrs. Paprocki?
Here.
Mr. Rivera? Here. Mrs. Casey? Mrs. Gray?
Here.
Mr. Benteen?
Here. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cinco, you call the roll.
Mrs. Paprocki?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Benteen?
Yes. At this time, we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. At this time, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Andrews.
Sorry about the bunch. Girls can. Ready to start us off, ladies? It's like it's
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a really special program that we brought for you guys tonight. Girls on the Run is one of my favorite programs. As a teacher, I actually ran it for 1 year, and I love that it's something that's continued here at Spalding. So we've got a couple of our coaches here tonight and a couple of our girls that are going to talk to you a little bit about what they learned, what they loved. So we've got Miss Spring, Miss Fisher, and Miss Sprinkles are a few of our coaches. And I'll let our girls introduce themselves to you and share. They're each going to share one thing this evening. And while they're sharing, we have a slideshow of photographs that goes through their time together. You want me to click through, Mr.
That probably, you'll know the timing of it.
So this season we had a really great group of girls. This is actually the first time we had 16 girls since the beginning of this, which was 5 years ago. So it was really fun. We had a wonderful turnout. The girls would go through each lesson. We started each day with snack and getting to talk about a certain theme. A lot of it was really understanding ourselves, valuing others, understanding our self-worth. And we did activities that went along with that. And then at the end of the season, these girls did amazing. We had 19-degree weather for our 5K. It was freezing. It was down by the river, so it was really cold with the wind. And the girls really rocked that out with their running buddies. And just really proud of them. I mean, like I said, we had 16 of them. So the fact that they were all staying together and they were really willing to work with one another and make new friends, which was really cool this year. So the pictures right now are our 5K, our practice 5K at Spalding. And then this is our downtown run with their running buddies. But
I feel cold just looking at
it.
So we're gonna have each of the girls share one of their favorite things from the season. Cassidy, will you go first for us? Come up here, girls.
You can do it.
Stuck on my purse. Come on.
You guys had some good ones.
Yeah, you had a great time. We had so much fun. Okay.
Yes.
Maya, will you go first?
All right. Which one are you reading?
You're supposed to pick something to share, anything that you enjoyed from our season.
So my favorite memory. Yep, say my favorite memory.
My favorite memory was the 5K.
Is there a reason why? Just because it was fun? It was cold? I liked it because it was cold too.
They've got music, all of the local mascots were there, lots of fun booths and food and coffee, and they really do a good job down there for our 5K. So it's a fun environment.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Maya. Autumn?
What is something you learned from Girls on the Run? Something that I learned from Girls on the Run is being confident about myself.
Good. All right, Cassidy, you ready?
Something I learned from GoCR is I learned always to believe in myself.
Awesome. Good. All right, Lily, what, your favorite thing, anything?
I love Girls on the Run because I make new friends and I learn new things.
Awesome.
Pretty good.
All right.
This one. That should be all the screen, but everywhere else. Right there. Yes,
Girls, we have a certificate for you for coming out tonight, being so brave to speak in front of everyone. So Lily Lee, come back up. Lily, can you tell us who you brought with you tonight, sweetheart?
My dad, Everett Sawyer, and my mom, Chrissy Sawyer.
You want to come stand with us? It's okay. Cassidy Pearman. Thank you, Cassidy.
My mom, my dad, and my brother.
Autumn. Who'd you bring with you, Autumn?
My dad.
And Amaya. Who'd you bring with you, sweetheart?
I brought my mom, my dad, and my brother.
You guys are so lucky to have all that support. Right. Thank you so much for letting us share a little bit about Girls on the Run with you. If you guys have questions for the girls, I'm sure they'd love to answer, but we're just really proud of their hard work this year.
Very quietly.
They were very chatty during the season.
Did you guys have fun? Make a lot of friends? How cold was it? Was it really freezing? I secretly cannot stand to run in the cold. Really?
Was that the coldest run that the coaches have?
Coldest one I remember.
That's a cold one I've been on.
I woke up that morning and I was like, please warm up.
So do you ever plan to run a 5K again or never again?
We actually, she ran the turkey run
Oh,
like 2 weeks later.
Was it warm?
I think it was a week
warmer,
later.
wasn't
It was
it?
a little bit warmer. And you got Holtman's Donuts afterwards. So she was pumped.
okay, so be ready for cross country.
Oh, future team right here.
Congratulations, girls. Great
Thanks for
job.
coming.
At this time, if anybody would like to leave, or you're more than welcome to stay for the next couple, 3 hours.
On that 3 hour desk.
You guys have a good one. You'll be running out of here real quick.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Aw.
I pray.
You need to create a future board members.
Did I get anything fixed? Good. On it.
So at this time, we'll have old business and Mr. Edwards.
So I'll first let Mr. Schenkel go, just to brief you guys on facilities repairs from our, for the tornado. We don't have a tremendous update or anything, but just to keep you guys in the loop.
Yeah, so insurance came out, we actually had a meeting with them and they went over to, because there's a little bit of disagreement on the middle school roof in regards to total replacement or partial. And they did some testing to see if the tectum needs to be replaced. 'Cause I guess when it lifted and came back down, they know the first part needs to be done, but how far out that ripple effect went. So they're actually doing some studies on that, got an engineer looking at it, and we're supposed to be hearing on full repair or not. On the high school, we know all the metal is going to get replaced, so we're going to get that scheduled. Again, they're looking at all of our flat surfaces to see what needs to be done in that respect. on the glass block over at Bar Cook, they've approved to go ahead and do basically a storefront on that as opposed to putting glass block because it's hard to match all that up. And so we'll probably get that scheduled in the summer. And then also they agreed to do all the gym floors. And so we're just going to try to schedule that in once we find out for sure what the scope of the work's going to be on the roofs.
Wait, both gym floors totally?
Well, they're just, the gym floor at the middle school is going to get like
Surface.
resurfaced and all that kind of stuff. Apologize on that. But that's kind of a cliff note on, I think it's the main items that we still have remaining there.
This floor is at auxiliary gym also?
Yes.
Okay.
We're doing bleacher repairs as we do that.
That's what I should do.
Yeah, to make sure that they'll go in and out smoothly and are fully functioning, so it's a good time to do it. We want a fresh bleachers so when they roll in and out, they don't mark up a new floor. Because they'll put big tracks in the floor, so. You guys any more questions on the tornado repairs? So, following up from our November meeting, which we were talking about the results of the election, we did a lot of action steps that we agreed to on at our November meeting, some of which are listed here. And I'm going to walk everybody through these and what we have found out so far and the information that we have. The first piece that we talked about doing was we were talking about trying to find out information about the voters. And, we had 5,500 people voted, but we were trying to look at, say, who voted and who didn't vote. And, did our parents vote and so on and so forth. We have no analysis done because we did not get the Claremont County list until this afternoon. I believe I saw the email at 2:37 this afternoon. So we had the Warren County list, we had the Claremont County list, and this is something we'll have to bring back to you guys at a later meeting. Just unfortunate, we just did not get the thing back until now. So we met with the facilities steering committee. We posed a couple of questions of them and had an open discussion with them. The general consensus from the group is that what I've kind of listed up here, which are that there was a significant amount of voters turned out. We know that we had about 2,300 more voters in the last election that we ran. And there were voters who had been watching a lot of national negative political narrative and had impacted us. That there were a lot of upset voters out there who really didn't come to support the facilities issue that we had offered up. The second key thought was that the economic climate hurt chances, that it wasn't necessarily a good time to run it. Another key thought was that the schools are going to need to continue to prove the need, and that we need to show some of the conditions that we have. We actually were sitting down there in the cafeteria and began talking about how that whole area down there has transformed, and from 20 years ago, what it was used for, the rooms beside it and everything, to what it is used for now. That we need to show some of the conditions. Because that next bullet is, a lot of people still don't necessarily feel the need as they're not here and they don't necessarily see it. It was discussed about how messaging is going to be really important to our voters, that like short videos would be an excellent resource to answer frequently asked questions, that it might be a way that people could gather information, and that they'd be willing to take a look at it in that manner. As opposed to just simply reading it and sticking it on our website or putting it out in that manner. And then the last bullet I have up there, that's really important to figure out what the community wants, and that they would support, that would be, and that may even be addressing our facilities needs in 2 or more phases, as well as that there is maybe some other alternatives that we might need to consider. So the next piece of thing that we did, I also got a thought exchange that we had, and about, I think it's 33 or 35 people on the committee contributed, which were the thoughts were very similar from the steering committee. We also did a parent and community thought exchange, and just a reminder to the board, thought exchange it's a great way to gather data. You simply answer a question, ask a question, and you allow people to submit their thoughts. And then, so I, as a participant, am asked first, what thoughts do you have about the recent November bond issue and what you think the Board of Education's next steps might be? So we asked that question, and then this was the question we asked. And then community members get to then submit a thought, if they so choose, or 2 thoughts, or 3 thoughts, or 4 thoughts that they would like to share with the group, and then you're asked to rate those. And the benefit of this form of gathering data is the fact that everybody's got a voice, and one voice doesn't necessarily get to overpower the other voices, so that everybody gets a chance to offer an opinion and to speak. And it is anonymous. In our community thought exchange, we had 328 people participate. They submitted 206 thoughts. So in the end, they get rated. There were 7,937 ratings, or in other words, each participant rated probably about 25-ish thoughts. And if you jumped in there early, you got to see whatever thoughts were submitted. If you jumped in there late, you got to see all 206 thoughts. If you so choose, you just keep on going. So it's a great way of collecting data. And then they work with you to be able to put together this information, these 206 thoughts, to be able to see what are the themes, what are the overall thoughts, because you can literally see all 206 thoughts and where they ranked, like 1 through 206. And NA did not finish 206. It was like 198th. There's actually, if you saw the NA not applicable, but somebody submitted that, and it ranked towards the bottom. Who submitted it? Well, we sent it out via email. We sent it out via newsletter, and we sent it out via Facebook. And a majority of the people, by far, who submitted were parent or guardians of our kids. So I do think while you have an accurate picture of a lot of people's thoughts, a lot of it are parents and guardians. 36 people did not have children in the school. They were a community member. What schools did they come from? Remember, the numbers are big there. The percents don't add up because people have more than one child. So they could, check that. 112 of them had kids in Mark Cook, 98 had kids in Spalding, 112 at the middle school, 109 at the high school. This is a word cloud. The biggest words are the words that are the most frequently mentioned words. All of these words were mentioned throughout there. And these are the most frequently mentioned ones. So our biggest mentioned ones were disappointed, community, and education, with other ones that are large ones that you could see about increase and bond and pass and failed and funding, or all took up some of the main issues. So some of the key thoughts. What were some of the overriding themes that you'll see on the next slide? These are the actual statements that people submitted. I voted yes, but I think inflation had a high impact on the result. New building. With overgrowth, I love the new building idea. I went to a new school. I went to a school with overgrowth, even with a new school, so a new building would support overgrowth. We need to figure out a way to educate the community. There seems to be a huge problem with people not understanding how funding works. Addressing open enrollment, the 1%, what it's allocated, state funding, etc. 4, open enrollment is not the cause of overcrowding, and eliminate would exacerbate the funding issue. And so those are some of the key thoughts. Here are the top themes. 45 thoughts were related to voter education or school finance. A little over 35 thoughts, which is very similar to what our steering committee said, by the way. Over 35 of the thoughts were supportive of the plan. And that these were strongly mentioned, okay? These are not, like, we didn't say, well, does that one yes or no? These are, I supported the plan. And there were almost 25 mentioned economic concerns. Support of the plan comments, here's some samples. I was disappointed it failed. I love all the Goshen offers and will always vote yes for our schools. I'd hate to see overcrowding, layoffs, and removal of elective classes. I supported the bond issue. Schools are the future of this community. We have to provide the best for our students. There's the new building comment again. In preparation for a growing community, it's evident that the bond should have passed. Our children need safe, secure facilities, better traffic patterns included. This is to allow our community to grow. I believe it's important to allow students to have more one-on-one with teachers, less overcrowding. As for the bond, I feel like it was a good plan. It was all needed. Voter education, school finance, top thoughts that were mentioned from them. We need to figure out a way to educate the community. We talked about that one, about school funding, how it works. For those who are asking about a breakdown of how the 1% income tax is spent, I suggest you attend one of the many meetings that were offered. It was explained in those meetings. The third thought that was a popular one among the voter education, school finance one was, I don't think enough parents with kids currently attending our schools actually voted. And I was sad it failed. I think most people don't understand the actual need for the bond issue. Some, I think, simply cannot afford it, even if they did agree. That the district needs to show why it's needed. And then the last one is uneducated members, that basically the same thing about getting them information. And the economic concerns, we talked about I voted yes, but I think inflation had to do with it. We need the bond issue to become acceptable to residents. The township's growing and more students are coming. I understood the need for funds for expanded facilities, but the economy isn't great right now and people are strapped. Much needed right now, but taxes are just too high. And at times it's a struggle to pay them. Supported the bond issue and understand the need for it. These times of high inflation causing financial challenges for many, that affected support. This is a Venn diagram of kind of like top thoughts on two sides of a coin. And what's really important is in the middle. Now, side A in this is disappointed that it failed. And side B is, that if you can look at the second one. Well, the first one, I'm not surprised it failed. My thought when voting is that the need for the larger facilities was based on hypothetical need. With the current economy, it may not be needed. So some negative, as far as I'm not surprised it failed and supported that. And what do they have in common? Are the thoughts in the middle. There was a comment about cutting buses would cause more traffic problems, not ease the congestion. Everybody can agree on that. That was the top rated thought overall. But the second one was much needed right now, but taxes are just too high, and at times it's a struggle to pay them. The second one, and I'm just going to sit in the middle category here, but you can see the second comment that the group, these 125 people at the top are kind of both rated very highly. You can see at a 4.3 both, because you have up to 5 stars you can rate. We need to figure out a way to educate the community. It seems to be a huge problem with people not understanding how funding works. A third one, which has 94 people on the right there in that diagram. What do they agree on? And one of theirs was limiting enrollment to only 5122 houses is not possible. So again, parents and community, top feedback, top themes are those on the screen there. Did a staff thought exchange as well. 108 people participated, submitted 55 thoughts, and gave 1,668 ratings. So between the two of them, you've got about a little over 430 participants, which is, that's pretty good feedback. What's your role? Most of them were teachers, with 23% being support staff, a few administrators. Their main words, education, space, facilities, continuing to provide. So their key thoughts and their themes are the community as a whole is not willing to pay more taxes, regardless of the situation, but this is a need that's not going to go away. Space is needed, and we're going to continue to work at that to provide that top-notch education. Space is an issue, but we all know that. They talk about class sizes there, keeping them down. Many community members don't yet grasp the stakes and costs that would be incurred by not proactively growing our facilities. And this one, they're talking about without experiencing the impact that it might have in the long term, community members might not fully understand what they're voting for or against. I'm extremely disappointed about the outcome of the member board issue. We are out of space. Our kids in schools needed us to pass. They talk about how we've been creative, using every inch of space that we can, closets, hallways, et cetera, to fill opportunities. A disappointment, I don't think that the general public understands the need. They do not see it firsthand. There are classrooms and closets. If people saw that, they may understand a little bit. So if we went with the same themes, obviously there are people here who are sitting here every day and see it. So obviously they very supportive of the plan. Voter education, school finance was their second one, and economics was their third. So the support of the plan and the voter education kind of flipped. Voter education, the first one we already talked about. The second one we already talked about. The third one we already talked about. The fourth one, the November bond issue, addressed the important need for classroom space. This should continue to be the focus for future facility needs. The community may need more information on how taxes can be used. As I saw a few posts stating the district already had enough with the 1% income tax. We need to be more open about communicating our challenge is the last bullet. Support of the plan. 1, 2, 3. The first 3 lines have been mentioned already. The fourth one, I thought the bond was well put together with a better allocation of funds than the previous proposal. It's apparent when you walk through the schools on a typical day, they're beyond capacity and becoming crowded. I think it's important to move forward to try to get a bond issue passed to get more space in our schools. I thought the plan was reasonable and disappointed it didn't pass. Economic concerns. Many people are concerned about how much it would raise their taxes. Didn't fully understand that your taxes would decrease as the houses increase. Money coming out of residents' pockets is what concerns them the most. It's a tough financial time for many families out there, and we cannot combat the fact that everything costs more right now. The cost was the primary factor that failed due to the economy. The economic and political climate really was the primary reason it failed. A lot boiled down to people being able to financially afford it. I don't think it was that people didn't support the plan, but rather they cannot afford a tax increase right now. I'm disappointed the bond issue did not pass, but not surprised due to the current economy. The committee did a very good job. Let the community ask questions about the bond issue, but need to show them exactly why we need this. And they're ones that follow in common. This is a little harder because pretty much everybody was in support of the bond issue that filled this one out. But in the middle falls a lot of economic concerns. Those again are their top themes. Held a community meeting last Wednesday, advertised as much as we could about it. I don't know whether people don't want to come out on a 38-degree December night in the holiday season, whether people were interested in coming out. We advertised via the sign, Facebook, email, our newsletter. And we didn't have any new attendees except for people that had already attended as members of the Steel Steering Facilities Committee meeting. So they weren't able to come out, and they didn't come out to give their opinion in a face-to-face venue. So here's some of the summary, and then I'll let you guys ask me some questions that you have on it. We had high participation from parents and staff members. I mean, if you look at those numbers, I would say that 10% of our parents at least filled out that survey. That's pretty good. You'd like to have people fill out more, but if I ever get 328 people filling out a survey, that's a great thing. People are busy. They think they're going to come back to it later, never get back to it. There was a low participation from those without students in school. So probably the data is a little bit biased in that standpoint. Staff and parents understand the need for the most part. Greater community does not necessarily. There was a general disappointment from parents and staff members that the issue was unsuccessful. Economic concerns were definite contributing factor. And voter education efforts, even though they have been many and have been successful in some areas, need to continue. So let me ask you this. First of all, on the data, on the surveys, do you guys have any questions?
Nothing surprising there, really, I think.
It's encouraging that the some of the largest words, not necessarily mentioned, that were up there on both the community and the school feedback were children and kids, because that's what's at the center of all of this, and what's
Absolutely.
is what we can provide and offer them.
And you saw that. I mean, there weren't many. When people have 206 anonymous thoughts they can contribute, there really weren't blows against, there was a couple of negative comments, but there was mostly, it was economic questions or economic comments, or disappointment in some people's cases, or wanting to provide a quality education. So there weren't a ton of negative things other than money. So I mean, the growth we know is still coming. In fact, I sent you guys that picture Thursday of that smaller development that's coming on short 48 or long 48, and that's not on here. But we know the growth is still coming, and we're still going to have a need coming down the road, as we're going to grow in 10 years to 3,511 students, according to that. I mean, really for tonight, the things that you guys need to consider is we have a election coming up in May, which is the next opportunity to run a plan out in front of our community. In order to make the deadline for that, all of our stuff has to be submitted to the county auditor and the state by January 2nd, which means that really, I'm going to tell you, you charged me with the three of us with a whole bunch of stuff to do at the last meeting, some of which didn't get done because you're operating on other people's timelines. If you just said, Daryl, type 3,000 names on a list and get that to us, I could have done that. But a lot of this doesn't depend on us. You're on a timing issue with a lot of stuff. We've got to have a plan really submitted that's approved by our Board of Education by January 2nd, which really leaves you primarily with tonight. Do you want to, put the same issue back on the ballot in May to raise the $49.965 million that does not include inflation, whatever the prices would be. It does include a change in the interest rate that was 7.2 mils would now be 7.48 mils to raise that same amount, because we'd have to pay off more interest. And then really we have to decide we want to go back on the ballot again in May of 2023, and we either need to pass a resolution tonight to get that process started, or schedule a special meeting before January 1st to be able to do so. Or no, this is really the only decision that has to be made tonight. No, we'd like to gather more feedback, look at different options to meet our needs, and look at returning to the ballot in November 23 or May 24 or whenever that it would be. Really, if the answer is second, you don't have to take a vote. The vote that you would have to take is to put something on the ballot for May. You guys asked me to find some research on what some other possible options would be. We've begun that process. I have some information, but quite honestly, it's not very, like a lot of that came through today. It's not, it's like 100,000 foot view type of information. So just want to gather your guys' thoughts on how you would like to proceed from here until the future.
Well, number one, to do it January the 2nd, that's not all work days between now and then. you've got holidays in there and weekends. I don't think it'll fly in May in the present form. And I would like to see Mr. Edwards and Mr. Schinkel bring us some figures, some alternatives to this issue.
I was gonna say, I feel very conflicted because we know there's a need, right? The need's not going away. That's why we put it out there. I feel like we are trying to be somewhat proactive, but the reality is it's not really too proactive, right? In the sense that, you know, people are already enrolling, houses are already being built, and it takes time to create additional space, build additional space. But on the other hand, I feel like our community spoke very loudly with the results of this election that we just had. And, you know, the economy hasn't changed since November. And, you know, I feel like what we saw a lot in the feedback even that we got in the surveys is, you know, people are concerned about the economy even where they are supportive. But we can't continue to put it off, right? We need options. We need to pass something soon. January 2nd doesn't give us much time to look at various options, but like John, I'd like to look at some alternative options.
I agree. I mean, the need, without a doubt, the need is there, but without a doubt, it was soundly defeated. And yeah, people, I just feel like May's not the time to run the same issue.
Really, it'd be a slight increase, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, that was a shellac, you know, and I think that's, I can't see things change a lot between now and then. I don't think we need to know who to reach out to next or how to reach out to them next. And that's going to take some time, I think.
I mean, absolutely though. I mean, we have to put something on in November. We have to have some options.
Mrs. Paprocki?
Yeah, I'm fully aligned, and I think we would just, it's sad, but I don't think, the economy hasn't changed, so I feel that we'd be better spent using our time and resources, trying to come up with maybe even communication plans, like what would that look like? The video was a good idea, so like even now, like, and then what our options are, and if it's a phased approach or whatever, but then still like how is the best way to communicate out to the community, because they obviously don't know the needs. So I would say no need to vote tonight, in my opinion.
No, you don't have to vote if that's the general consensus that you guys want to do. I mean, what I'm hearing is bring us back a lot of information over the upcoming months. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, February or March, by that time, you know, if you can have some alternative thoughts for us and figures.
Okay.
Either one of those months, sooner the better, but either one of those months.
As you go through the data that you guys, the information you see today, that'll help.
And I can give you that information in January. I'll have that piece ready, the voter analysis piece. I'll get that ready for you in January. And then have the rest of the information ready in February-ish, March-ish. I know it'll take everybody to get that stuff together.
What are we gonna look at when we look at that data?
Contacts from which buildings, basically, did they vote or not? You know, I mean, is there
Is there
it
any
matter
way
of
that we
getting younger
can look
parents
at
out?
that more urgently, just to see like, is there an immediate red flag that maybe we call?
We're gonna look at tomorrow.
Okay, yeah. I don't wanna just put it off, because like if that data shows us like, well, reality is
Sure.
it's quite possible. Maybe we need to call, right, a special meeting and put this back on there. But that's if that data shows any kind of, glaring, like, I think we could pass this based on this data.
And there,
Because there were, like you said, there were a lot more voters this time around than there was when we had a bond issue in 2019.
yes, there were. We had 5,500 people that voted on the bond issue, and I'm assuming it'll tell us how many voters live within the district, because I know not everybody voted on the bond issue, because there were voted up here. I know it was a lot more than 5,500 people that voted that night, because it was a midterm election. That how many people didn't flip that sheet over? Yeah. I know when I went out there, I said, "Hey, make sure you fill out both sides." I was there for that reason.
Well, I will put together what we can, send that to you guys.
Okay.
So Deborah, is your thoughts that like if the numbers were increased 50%, if you think if if our parents were a bigger increase than the general public increase, then it might be possible,
That
right?
we could get our parents out in May
Yeah.
and do it because it's an off cycle. If the data shows that.
I'm not sure that the data is going to show you anything more glaring than this data does.
Right.
And I know it's sad, but you can't force people to vote, right? But is there any tactics out there that other schools have used to get more people to vote?
And I think that
Is that illegal?
I think certainly our volunteers and parents did some of those pieces too, a lot of those. But I think that's a question that certainly always looking at.
Yeah.
I think that's the curiosity piece of handing that data off to our parents and stuff that is all that. So
I think too, I know we talked about facilities meeting, but something we learned at Capitol Conference, a couple of different sessions I went to, they talked about bond issues, but a couple different towns had senior centers where they could really get the word out to these people to get rid of some of this misinformation out there. But unfortunately, we don't have a place like that in Goshen.
I went to one that they heavily used community centers and churches in their local community.
That was even just within the parents, you think they would see, but one comment said, if it looks nice at open house, people don't see a problem, So I'm like, I guess, maybe we should take a tour of that Spalding classroom that's, in the closet or in the gym or wherever she is, with the toilet there. Like, this is reality, folks.
Yeah.
So.
well, I mean, there's a very clear message about voter education and sharing that information, and I think that's going to be a piece of communication, and that's that piece of that communications plan, and voter information about the economics of the school system and how it works. So, I know that our district, the board, administration, Mr. Schenkel does a great job of trying to take care of the taxpayer dollars. And I guess sharing a lot more of that information. As Mr. Schenkel says, we often don't pat ourselves on the back for that stuff. Maybe just getting information out about fiscal responsibility and the things that we try to do to be so. Every single day, those are the decisions that we're making. So.
Yeah, it's one of those things, you kind of sit back and look. I mean, we make what is the best decision for kids every day. And we do our darnest in that respect all the time, is maintain our budget. I don't mean this to sound good or glamorous or anything at all, but this is going to be our 10th year in a row we're under budget. That's pretty remarkable. It's a team effort that it's happening, because what programs can we afford, salaries and all the above. It goes into those equations, but we're just doing our job. We don't sit there and say, look what we're doing. But maybe we should. Maybe we should really say, hey, the income tax, we know it's making this a better district. We know that it helps do all these programs.
Absolutely.
So, but it's just like when you first, if you're a husband and wife and you first go out and buy a house, who doesn't take a mortgage? Who pays cash for their house starting out? You just don't go out and do that. That's the same thing, with our building. yeah, we have money in the bank that we're running our programs, but it's not,
Not
it would
to
just
build.
drain us if we just went out there and paid the
Oh, and it's
building
not
all
enough
our
to
own.
build a building.
No.
Right.
It's kind of like everybody has an operating budget at home.
Right.
When it comes time to build a house,
You don't use all of it.
you don't use your entire operating budget that you feed yourself and buy clothes for the family and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so
I
we're
do
trying to
think-
come
I
up with a
mean,
message, you
We
know.
pointed that out before, right? I do think part of it is how do we get all of this communicated out to the community and not necessarily just our parents? I feel like we're doing a pretty good job at communicating and offering things to our parents, but how do we get it out there to everybody else and show them, right? Like, and we pointed this out, we put it together, and I think pockets of people saw it like our parents, but all of the grants that we're applying for and getting, right? And all of the things that we're doing and what we are utilizing the 1% for and what that does fund and provide. But then, like you said, there's this whole need of like, we need more space for the incoming, well, for the students we have now,
Right.
but for the growth that is also coming. And how do we show that? How do we express that? Because let's face it, our teachers do an excellent job with what they have. Right? Our teachers do an excellent job with what they have. And so kids don't feel the pain and parents don't feel the pain and we don't want them to, right? We don't want kids to ever feel the pain, regardless of how long it takes us to pass this thing. We want kids to still have the opportunities that we have out there for them.
That's what we always do, try to eliminate barriers. So Mr. Benton, you want me to bring back information and I'll bring back that voter information to the whole group in January and send something out to you before then. If anybody feels that need, they can contact you to contact
And
me.
there's no reason why that if we get some good information that we think would be beneficial, that we could have a work retreat or a special meeting and discuss it and iron it out.
For sure.
But I think until then, we need to see what we can come up with, and we want to tinker with the millage and so on. We've got to get something to get these people to vote for this.
Agree. I feel like if it was closer, I'd feel different, but
Oh, yeah, we're not,
it was loud.
yeah.
The vote outcome was
So
loud.
really what you're looking at is having something in February or March.
February and March, yeah.
That where we bring all that stuff and package it with different choices, different options. That we've had those discussions in last meeting and so on and so forth, that we can bring forth some different ones.
If we could take a part of what we would have used part of this for and build 6 classrooms, and we could take that off of there and go do that, or whatever. We need to be able to sit down and look at what we could do with what our resources we have in the bank and see what we can trim from that. And there's no reason why we can't have a special meeting and do it. And we're up against it as far as time.
You really don't have many options, quite frankly, for January 2nd, and
Right.
put this thing back on.
Right.
I mean, I can give you all the data that you want tomorrow, and you're relying on a whole lot of other people to get you numbers.
So if that's the consensus of the board tonight, why we'll leave it that way and move on.
Can I ask a question?
That's perfect.
Can I ask?
We're coming up with public,
Okay.
Rick, just a minute. The public hearing on the 2024 calendar.
And then public participation.
Yeah. So I got one thing to do, and then we'll get to it.
Sure meeting, sure.
So do we need a motion on this?
No,
Do we need a motion?
you do not need a motion.
But will people with the board look at this calendar, and do you have
I'll just quickly go through. We've got, you guys know the goal of this every year is just to get as much instructional time as possible and keeping up with the opportunity to give staff PD and those opportunities. We met with the staff, surveyed the staff. Each building tank came together. This was the calendar that we've chosen. It keeps the fall break normal Christmas break. We did move all parent-teacher conferences to Thursdays. And talking to the teachers, Thursdays seem to be more attended, and obviously, makes the week for them as well, because those are late nights for them. But there's some attendance data there, and then we stuck with the later spring break and reminder. I mean, everything we do with this is driven a lot of times by the state testing calendar. We do have Friday there of Good Friday before spring break, so it is a little extended with where Easter fell this year. We have had people in the past, and this was we put this out to the community for feedback, and we got one response. Please keep spring break separate from Easter. Parents compete at work for spring break time off, and spreading it over weeks other than Easter allows for more parents to take time off for spring break. So we didn't really line up with that one this year because of where Easter falls, but we're going to try to stick to the first week of April to be consistent, because that does help with scheduling. Also fits the testing schedule, also fits some of our spring sports at the high school level, knowing when we can schedule track meets and when we can schedule baseball games and softball games, so that we have a consistent time there. So any questions you guys have on that? Again, that's been through staff's eyes, probably more than they wanted to, but we did get a lot of feedback on it from staff, asked for it from the community, and then any questions you guys have on it.
So when is Easter?
It must be, with Good Friday being on March 29th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
What,
So
the
it's
31st? Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, March does have a 31.
There's a 31 down the corner. You can't see it there.
Okay, so there it is.
That-
I was like,
It's in the wrong month, but I see why it's like
Yeah.
that. Okay, got it. So, okay, this time it falls, and it is kind of leading up to
Just really
Easter, but
depends
we'll-
on,
And I know there's always questions, but I mean, it'll always be, right? Because there's always questions on Voter Tuesday when Veterans Day falls in the same week.
So we've talked about it a lot as a staff, and I think when I came into this 12 years ago, there were days that we said were important. Veterans Day was one of those. Even though we celebrate it and do a lot with our kids, and bringing veterans in, taking that day off
Oh,
has
absolutely.
been important.
Yeah.
And then Election Day, obviously, you'd have to move the precincts out of the schools to be able to probably avoid that type of thing. And I don't
Right.
think that's possible. There's been conversations of, could you just have the high school kids go remote and stay on the other side of campus? I don't know. That's a pretty big schedule mix up and change and communication.
And still busing traffic,
Yes.
drop off,
Yep.
pickup traffic,
Yep.
yeah. I just wanted to ask, because I know
Yeah.
every year you hear rumblings
Yeah.
around that time, it's hard to take off
Yep.
2 days in 1 week.
Yep.
But as long as we're considering that. Looks good to me.
So we'll bring this back in January. I'll let that feedback out there for a little bit more public time while it's out there, and then we'll bring it back in January to adopt it.
For official.
Yep.
Okay, moving right along. We're up to public participation. Each person addressing the board shall give his or her name and address. You have 2 minutes to speak until 30 minutes is used. So, who's first?
Like me. Tyler Bailey, 2597 McHenry Road. I know all of you guys. Much respect for the tough decision you guys have to make. A few points that I think me and Tom kind of discussed was it's easy to fixate on that number, that 3,300 or whatever it was. But we're looking at a political landscape that we've never seen before. I mean, we had people coming out because they were angry, not necessarily at the school. They were just angry at the taxes and all that stuff. So I just don't want to look at that day and say, hey, we missed an opportunity here. It was such a low turnout. Maybe our parents came out in full force. I would just hate to miss that opportunity and say, man, we could have done this or we could have done that. The other thing is, and we look at maybe what the township might run in the fall or potential things like that. Can this go up against that? Because we're going to be bringing out more people. Things to think of. These are, I'm just just kind of, because we're all disappointed, obviously.
Right.
And I would hate to see this happen again in the fall and then we feel defeated and then it's like, what can we do next? And the other point we kind of thought of was we would hate to see a Band-Aid coming up with a plan that's just a Band-Aid. And then we have to vote on something again in 4 to 5 years. Then what? What if that doesn't pass? Now we're really looking at this 3,500 number. And we don't have a school. We don't have anything. All we've done was a Band-Aid to fix the problem now. So, I mean, those are just kind of our thoughts. I mean, because as a small business in this community, we're in a unique position. We're putting spirit wear on all these kids' backs. We're seeing these classes increase each year when these teachers are asking us. So, I mean, we understand that the need is here. Everybody else here does. And it doesn't cost anything to throw it back on other than our time. And I know for me, for Tasha, you can always have our time. And I know that group of people, they'll give you your time all day long. So thank you guys. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Rick?
Yeah, Rick Van Loo, 6367 State Route 132, Goshen. I'm gonna bounce off of what you were just talking about. You cannot stop, period. Your credibility issue is down the toilet. If you lower the amount, you change anything, you just gotta keep right on going. When you wanted something from your parents, you would ask them, they would say no, no, no. Eventually, what they say, yes. It's exactly the same way we're going to have to deal with this. This is an emotional issue for everybody. It's disheartening for everybody who's worked so hard for it and who voted for it. But we may not have but 800 people vote. You know? So you don't nickel and dime it to death. You've done your homework. You've shown the community we need $50 million. Put it on the ballot. It doesn't cost a dime, not one dime. You've got the committee. We're running. The committee's rolling. They know their jobs. They know how to do it. They'll do it again and again and again until it passes. But don't come back with, like 6 classrooms, or we're going to piece this, or, let's cut it down a little bit. You've lost your credibility. You'll never get another thing passed in here until all of you are out of office. I'm dead serious. I've seen it happen. I chaired 29 bond issues and levies for Milford schools. 29. I was the chairman. You know how many we passed? 4. 4. And we did 29 of them in my time. You've got to keep going. You just can't stop. And you can vote on it tonight. You don't have to put it on May 2nd, but you can vote to start the establishment of what they need to do. And if you don't put it on, you don't put it on. But you can at least vote to get it started. I don't want to see this happen to this community. I just don't. I'm really concerned.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Moving right along. Financial. You notice the last 7, 6, 7, or 7 and 8. Is there any questions? Do I have a motion to approve it?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Shingle, you call the roll.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mrs. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Benteen,
Yes.
Mrs. Paprocki,
Yes.
8D, personnel motions. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Shingle, call the roll.
Mrs. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Benting,
Yes.
Mrs. Paprocki,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
8E, miscellaneous. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Shingle, call the roll.
Mrs. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Benting,
Yes.
Mrs. Paprocki,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
So that brings us up to the Board of Education reports. Mrs. Gray, do you have anything?
Do not.
Mr. Herrera?
I do not.
Do you not?
Oh.
We had a meeting like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we did.
So I'll turn it over to Mr. Edwards at this time for his goal updates.
Just a reminder, you have a report in front of you, some things have been happening in the school district besides facilities. And they're all focused around, my report to you is always focused around our district target areas and our portrait of a graduate. That these things on the slide up there are what we're striving that every kid walks out of Goshen local schools being and doing, ready for the world. Under high quality instruction, just going to point out a few things, and that's the second bullet. And there's also related to this second bullet under early literacy. And we've done a lot of tremendous professional development this year of teachers learning from each other. The second bullet is our teachers at Spalding have been doing a lot of peer-led professional development based upon data from what they call instructional rounds. The building leadership team went around, observed things in school, and agreed upon in all the classrooms what are some things that we could all work on together. Teachers set goal from that. They developed their own professional development, and they've been following up. And it's great to see people learning from experts in the field, the people who are implementing it every single day. And it's really working out very well. The third bullet under high quality instruction, tutoring continues in all buildings for end of year assessments. Students are getting help to pass their graduation test at GHS. We've got kids that have been testing and are testing. Second chance, or kids that have moved in and didn't take tests. So we try to give them extra support at the high school to pass their graduation test. And then our underneath of our early literacy, I do want to report out some data that I thought was really good. First of all, we had to really focus with our at Spalding and middle school, they're giving, Spalding and Mark Cook and GMS, they're all giving benchmark assessments. Actually, the high school is right now too. And that data is used to regroup our intervention kids and to redesign instruction so that our kids get the help that they need to succeed academically. And I'm going to show you a data point that we got today that while it doesn't look great, there's a tremendous amount of progress that is being made. The last 3 years have had a huge impact on our children and our society. And it's called the COVID-19 pandemic and everything that's come out of there. So take a look at the top chart first on this. So the state put in new ELA tests back in 2015-16. And we keep redesigning tests, throwing tests out. You can see that after a couple of years, you look at the state average, it went from 34 to 37 to 38% on the fall third grade ELA passage to 40. So they went up 6% in that first 4 years. Our Goshen kids and our Goshen teachers and staff and administration made a lot of adjustments and went from a 38% to a 53 and 18 to a 54 and 17, 18, then 19 and 54. So we kind of had settled that appeared to be what our fall third grade scores were, 10 to 15% above the state average. And then we got hit by COVID-19 in the spring of 2020. And that first fall round of scores came out, and the state dropped off 7%. And we dropped off nearly 12%. I got some theories why we faced a little tougher fall than the rest of the state. It's in the second one a little bit, but and then the state went up 2 points last year, and we went up 3.6 because remember we've talked about it's going to take a while to close these gaps. Third grade readers last year in some of their cases had missed an entire year of school with online learning and a quarter of a year with being sitting at home under that so from March to May. And so those kids that took it last year, 39%, the state, 46 in Goshen. So we gained a little more of that. And then the state stayed the same this year. We went up another 5%. So, and here's what I would say that's encouraging about this for me. We're not back to pre-pandemic yet as far as fall reading, but what that shows you is the gaps are being closed with a lot of the work that our staff is doing. Some of the investments we've made in early literacy here are making a difference, and we're going to continue to have that done. You can see some more numbers at the bottom and just kind of show. One thing that does bother me about the numbers on the bottom is if you look in the fall of 2016, all of our students. Sorry, this is a performance index. It's something that's different. It's based on the levels of what you test. Like you get a certain amount of points for basic and limited and proficient and advanced and accelerated. Okay, the performance index. This is different numbers in the top piece there. So you got throughout the top. Now that's passage rate. In the fall of 2016, the difference between the typical every child in the district was sitting at about a 70 performance index. And our economically disadvantaged kids, which we know sit in the 40% here, actually tested slightly better than the average.
Yeah.
You can look at the fall of the 2017, and it's about the same. In the fall of 2018, they tested a little better than the overall average. And one of the things I thought is really, really important in our schools is that we should always be about opening doors and making sure that every kid's successful. What we talked about before, that there's no barriers to anybody. We want to make it easy for all of our kids. And that gap has, and you can look at in the fall of 2020, the gap began to grow, and then fall of 2022, it's not quite closed yet. A lot of reasons probably behind that, but for one thing, some of the students that need us very most didn't have us for quite a while there. Our gaps are still being closed there. So, but really encouraging numbers.
Yeah.
So to see that hopefully one day we'll be back to pre-pandemic. It's not going to be there yet this year, but we're closing gaps. So, and then I guess I should finish this. If we go to college and career readiness, a lot of good stuff going on. Just a few things in there. I had 9 students a week and a half ago test for industry credentials in Microsoft applications that received the industry credentials in that. We're testing more again this upcoming week. We had high school students take the ASVAB test, and military recruiters actually doing the Warrior Up Bell presented for kids that are interested in the military. Our sophomore students were able to view a presentation on the Great Oaks program. And this Friday, we're going to have a Where To Day district-wide where everybody's going to be involved in some type of career college readiness activity. Probably led by speed mentoring for our seniors, where right now I believe we have 20 people from outside. If anybody would like to volunteer, I think they're still looking for a few more people to come in from the outside. You meet with groups of kids literally for 5 minutes, and buzzer rings and it comes to the next person, and you meet with another small group of kids.
Do you know what time that is during the day?
I think it's second and third period, which is 8:20. All right. Yeah, about 8:20. So it's for 2 periods. So you're talking probably till about 10:15, something like that. If you're interested, I'd be glad to send anybody the link to the Claremont County Chamber website. So, or actually, I'll send it to all of you. And if you know somebody that might be interested, I think they're still looking for a few because I saw it today.
So yeah, how do they go about
signing up?
The current.
It's on the Claremont County Chamber website. So, and they it's neat. It really is a neat activity. I've participated as one of the speed mentors before. So you can offer your 5 minutes of advice to our seniors on things that you might look for employees or things they might do to be able to better themselves, or answer questions about the things that you do. It's just, it's a neat experience. So I'll send that out to all you guys tomorrow in case you know somebody that might be interested. Under the last bullet, under student development, I'll skip down to there. Oh, I apologize. There's two more things I wanted to mention at the top. Actually, one more. We're really trying to do a pre-K-12 approach with career ed this year. It's Spalding this year. The next last bullet under there is during their library and tech time, Spalding students this year participating in A to Z careers. So there's a letter of the alphabet, and then they participate in an activity that's got to do with, maybe emergency medical technician or maybe electrician, and then they talk about those careers. And Mr. Dubs and I are trying to work with the last bullet there with other Clermont County districts. We've applied for one of the planning grants for that Appalachian grant for Mike DeWine that would allow us to build pre-apprenticeship programs and open up more workforce experiences for our high school students by looking at a more regional approach than more than just Goshen trying to get out there and find these. Hoping to find some grant money that'll help support those initiatives. We've applied for that like a lot of other grants. Which leads me to student development and the first bullet that I wanted to go under that one. We applied for the 47 million, Mr. Schenkel, money that was out there. We applied for it along with every other school district in Claremont County, and the only one that got it was St. Louis Schools.
In Owensville?
Yeah. And none of the districts in Claremont County got this wave of money.
So that was on the third round. I mean, a couple of Claremont County schools did get it in the first and second, but no one did this time. But everyone applied, but Felicity.
Because they had gotten it.
You got it last time.
Yeah. So, and it was awarded on a competitive basis. Well, I'm not sure how you compete for school safety. 1,300 schools were turned down. I think they had a tremendous outpouring of requests for money. We've contacted I talked to our legislators, lawmakers. Mr. Schenkel sent something to the governor's office, and we're trying to find, and basically they just said they had an overwhelming amount of requests and that they'll probably be continuing further funding for school safety initiatives.
So are they saying a year from now or as soon as possible? Or that's great feedback.
And that was my point when I actually ate with one Friday, and my point was that you need
sooner rather than later.
Yes.
And find some way to give us feedback as to why.
Because they will not give you any feedback.
Right.
And I was going to say, that's probably the biggest disappointment. It's like, we can't even see why we didn't get it. I mean, what our assessments are, because they just said that it would be like a safety concern if there was, so you can see other districts where their weaknesses lied, I guess, in their safety.
Okay, but judging our application alone, are they concerned because it'll be a public record? Anybody goes say, hey, I want to see why we didn't get it and know our weaknesses?
Yes.
They're concerned?
Yes.
It was something along that lines.
Yeah. That they're going to turn down all public records requests regarding those. So.
Well, they're again, they could seem like they could legislate around that. Yeah.
What set St. Louis school above everybody else?
You don't know.
We don't know. Yeah.
One of the things that was mentioned to me was that perhaps schools that have been proactive and are taking care of a lot a lot of their security needs
I was gonna say, you
on
look
their
at-
own,
you
which
look
we
at all
have
of our
and all the
buildings.
grants we've applied
We
for.
have double entrances, we have cameras,
Yeah.
so they're immediately
probably
gonna
really have
criticize us saying, do we
Yes.
have a, but there's always a safety
Yes,
concern with
I'm not gonna
our
mention the
children.
things that I applied for,
Right.
you know, but we're trying to look at the next level on every single one of these.
Right.
And that what's been mentioned by a lot of the people that were not successful in large group, we were having this discussion, was the one thing we have in common is we've done a tremendous amount of things. So, you know, because what they did was they said based upon need and your plan to meet that. So if you have a higher demonstrated need, my only point is, how can we say we have to compete for school safety dollars? Because that's the
Every
actual
school has a
release, press release. So,
Yeah, I think that's the thing. We have done a tremendous amount around the district and with other grants, so.
grants and general fund too.
Right, and so not knowing what that criteria is, I mean, we know we're good, I mean, in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
so. But
We
it's still
just want to take
disappointing.
things to the next level. So,
We can always do better.
quite honestly, there's a thing or two in that plan that we're gonna do. We just hope to be able to use grant funding to do it rather than spend other money. So, other good news at the bottom, just, we've had really, our staff and community are supporting 364 students with the Giving Tree program. All of them are vetted for need. 3,200 pounds of food are going to go home with those families as well to support them during the holiday season through grants. All those students will also be able to get a winter coat and a free book. So really, it's really been really exciting. We've had a ton of great community partners and local churches, Interparish Ministries, United Way, Toys for Tots, American Legion, Shop with a Cop. There's so many people that are helping our families and kids, which is wonderful. Yeah. And there's other little pieces of good news there. The last one I wanted to add was the GMS annual Thanksgiving food drive raised 1,586 cans of food. So a lot of good stuff going on there. My next item, just to remind you guys that we are sponsoring a holiday luncheon that we would love to see you attending on. But it's okay if you can't. Just send your regrets to us. Let me know if you're not coming. That's okay. I get it. It's Wednesday from 11 to 1. You guys can give it up your time. If you can't make it, that's fine. Mr. Schenkel is not cooking, so.
I'll be
Okay, I'll be there.
Oh, there we go. So, I set a possible date down there for organizational meeting date right before our board meeting in January, for January 9th, because the January 9th would be our first board meeting. And so we would need a motion to approve January 9th as our organization meeting at 6:30. If you want to do that, Mr. Benteen.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Schenkel, call the roll.
Mrs. Paprocki,
Yes.
Mr. Herrera,
Yes.
Mrs. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Benteen.
Yes.
And at that meeting, you guys will do the things like select meeting dates for the entire year and officers and so on and so forth. But you do need to appoint a president pro tempore to run that meeting. Traditionally, it has been the past president, to be Mr. Benteen, but you guys can appoint anybody you want to run that.
Make a motion that John Benteen, our current president, runs the organizational meeting on January 9th.
Second.
I guess we need to vote. Mr. Schenkel, you call the roll?
Mr. Benteen,
Yeah, I'll vote for myself.
all right. Mrs. Paprocki,
Yes.
Mr. Herrera,
Yes.
Mrs. Gray.
Yes.
So it's January 9th, 6:30. Mr. Benjamin will run it. And then the number 5 item, it's just in your electronic packet, is that A to Z checklist that traditionally we have filled that out for you guys as putting in things that the board has worked under each one of those areas. If you guys have ideas that you would like for me to include in that, I will send you out an email right after the new year that says, hey, we're working on the A to Z checklist. What would you like for it to submit? It's in your electronic packet now. The A to Z checklist is kind of it's a way of, it's a little bit of a self-evaluation because like the A says, do we advocate for public education?
Right.
What ways does the Board of Education do that? Well, if we're not doing that, that's a reminder of something we need to be working on. So I'll do that. I'll send that out to you guys. If you want to just handle that the same way, Mr. Benteen, as we usually do. Okay. Then I'm going to go back to number 6. I'm going to quit talking here and just remind you that the Audit Finance Committee, for the 2 of you that are on that, which I believe is Mrs. Paprocki and Mr. Benteen, is January 31st at 6 p.m. And I'll preview it by saying Mr. Schinkel and his staff deserve a kudos once again for having a clean audit in the state of Ohio. We don't have all of the official reports back yet.
No, we just got the draft copy and then, so we don't have a management letter. I mean, so it was a clean audit and, so we're excited about that. I mean, it's been a number of years, so I don't know, we're gonna try to put something out about that so that, hey, that we did stay under budget, we had a clean audit.
Under budget and a clean audit.
Yeah.
Absolutely, awesome job.
Gotta make a video though of it, okay?
And then
We should highlight your team, honestly.
Yeah.
They are great. I mean,
they know
Quietly
we're gonna
behind the
take
scenes.
pictures too.
Aw.
So they're excited about the pictures too, aren't they?
They really were.
Yes. And then we'll let Mr. Bailey talk about the bullying report and the process that the district goes through on preventing bullying.
I laid this on your table. Just reminder, 2 times a year per our district policy, we update you guys on bullying. We really try to be proactive inside the buildings. I've told you guys this before. Just with the different supports that we have in place for kids to work through, a lot of times what sometimes appears to be bullying may just be the ability to communicate with each other. We've got a lot of things inside of PBIS, Hope Squad, peer mentoring groups, school counselors, outside counseling agencies, which have been a blessing to working through conflict resolution with kids, growth mindset, and really defining what is bullying as kids come up. So with all those things set in place this year, again, this is not reported as bullying. This is when we go through the whole investigation, it is deemed to be bullying. So we do not have any cases that have been disciplined for bullying. So from that side of it, that's the area that a lot of times is questioned. Maybe reported that my kid's being bullied. When you go through the investigation and work through and see everything that's going on in that situation, it's not bullying, because bullying is repeated. It's something that somebody has power over somebody. And again, I think a lot of the pieces that we have in place, if it comes up and it said, so-and-so did this to me, it doesn't reoccur because of all those pieces we have in place, which bullying is something that's repeated. And then it's discipline. So we have, at this point, mid-year, we have not disciplined for bullying itself.
So to be clear, we've had name calling.
Correct.
We've had somebody hit somebody, but it doesn't meet the definitions of what is bullying. It's defined by law. So I don't have anything else.
Can I ask one question after public participation? If we were to pass the resolution before January 2nd,
Mr. Shaker, you're listening to this.
does that, you can actually take it, not end up putting it on a ballot?
Well, there still is that vote that, to put it on. If you remember, there was 2 things we had to get, we went over our limit,
So we
limits.
passed in like May, and then in June, we had to.
To actually, the language itself comes back, so then that's to put it on. That one last time, so there is 2 votes.
So you can actually choose to not put it on before the second vote?
Yeah, well, this first one would be, we go to the Department of Taxation and they are, because we're exceeding our debt limit, and so we have to get that blessing on that. And then once they get that, then our bond council puts it together, the package, which on this one here, we know the actual cost, to redo all that other stuff, it would take some work to get those out there. The last time we only did this interest rate on that. That's why the amount went up, because we just said keep the amount the same. I don't know if that, hopefully that makes sense, but you would get this, you would vote on this, and then it would come back, and you could still say, not vote on it.
And not put it on the ballot?
Mm-hmm.
So what is the deadline for that second vote?
That's
Because would that give us more time to look at some of this information?
So somewhere we'd probably have to get a special in there because it's February. And, don't want to say this wrong.
January
so-
22nd was in there somewhere.
Yeah, but it all has to be everything. I mean, I know final draw is like February 2nd is the absolute like end date on that. But I mean, if I'd have to really just go out there and confirm all that stuff. I mean, if you wanted to take this, I'm not for sure 100% about the not taking it forward. When I say, like, when Daryl say January 22nd or February 2nd, I don't know that date right off the head. I don't know.
It's a month. It's a month.
It's a month. I'll trust but verify. How's that sound?
Never had that question asked before, so.
Yeah. But I do know
Never
there, I mean,
went
like,
through
if
this
we
time.
went back to the minutes, I mean, before we put it on, there was one last vote, once it got approved by the Department of Taxation, all that kind of stuff. That we
Right.
could have not done it.
Right, because we approved it, we did the resolution like May, and then in June, we
There was
approved it
enough
for
of
the
them
ballot,
that
right?
put it on.
So at that time, we could vote it down or vote for it, either way.
That's
That
correct.
last-
We wouldn't
That's
have to
correct.
necessarily put it on the ballot.
Right. We could vote to not put it on the ballot.
Right. But,
Well, I think on that, you just wouldn't act on it at all. I mean, it's just,
right,
it's,
but tonight, we could possibly pass the resolution just to get the information started, so it'd give us more time to get the data to look at.
I would ask you, what do you need? It's gonna change your mind from the discussion you had an hour ago. That, because I can get you voter analysis.
So the
but I don't
voter
know what all you're
analysis, I think would be helpful for two reasons. I think could we look at that and look at how many of those people have ever voted in May?
I don't know. No, you could look at, I believe, a previous May. And maybe two.
So we could look at it like if they voted last May or the May before.
I'd have to
Possibly.
find out a lot more information, Deborah.
Yeah.
So,
Because my thought is if, there's a possibility that, and how many of our parents got out and voted out of this group, right? Because my thought is if there is a smaller turnout in May and we did have a good number of our parents get out and vote, is there a possibility we could be successful?
One thing still very conflicted about. I think we could get more parents out to vote. We need that. But we also, the 3,300 no votes, we need to get a good amount of those people. We need to flip some of those people, a good amount of those people. Because
You think you're ever gonna flip those people? Because I think if we look at that data of the feedback that we got, the thought exchange feedback, we didn't really get those people, right?
Right.
In reality.
Right.
And if you look at historical voter data, those people don't historically necessarily get out and vote, right? Have we, I mean, other than a presidential election, I mean, our goal was 2,000, which we met and we made that our goal based on how many votes we would need based on a historical election, based on our 2019 at least. Is that correct?
correct, that would be, so elections run basically 4-year cycles.
Right.
So in November, a 3-year different one, because those same things aren't on the ballot in November 22. That would be your November 23 election would be like November 19 election.
My thought is if we look at the
And then
data.
the spring of 23 could be like the November of 19 as well. How many issues were on the ballot
The
besides
spring of
ours?
23 would be like the spring of 19.
What, no, but how many issues were on the ballot November of 19? There wasn't much. right?
There
We had-
was,
we had
we had
16
board members,
so we had-
trustees, board
So we had
members.
1,600 no votes then. We had 1,200 yes votes, so, right?
Yeah.
So we doubled our,
The number
they
of
doubled our no
voters.
So
votes.
you had almost 1,800
If we-
and 1,400.
If we look at the data and say that it's quite possible that it is the political climate that we're in,
But then I've spoke to a lot of people that really fully supportive of our schools, but just feel like it's just not the right time right now. So what I think we need to flip some. I really do, because there's people that supported the schools that said no, just because the.
we also got
economic
a
times are-
lot more yeses.
Yes, we did, yeah. I mean,
You know
but there's
what I
yes
mean?
votes. I
So
would hope
this
they
is-
would always be
So
there.
this is the reason
Yeah.
I'm having this discussion. Is there an opportunity to pass the resolution? Give us another month to get some of this data to make a decision. This isn't saying we're gonna put it on the ballot. This is just saying prepare the paperwork to
That's
put it on the ballot,
That's right.
right?
Uh-huh.
So can we prepare the paperwork to put it on the ballot and then collect that additional data of look at that voter data? Cause I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. I mean, that's
we're
what I
gonna
said the
put-
first time.
We're going to put effort into it instead
Right.
of just throwing it on the ballot.
No,
Because then-
I agree.
You know, what I mean, because then we'll just, really, I think we'd just
We
tick
got
people off.
four
I mean,
people
without-
out there who are saying they're ready to continue to put effort into it. No,
But there's people, I mean,
No, no,
you know, but, we're gonna have to do a better effort in clarifying, some of this,
Oh, I
perhaps
agree.
this misinformation.
But I'm saying, I'm not even saying we're not there yet, right? I'm saying if this is just to get the paperwork done before we actually have to vote to whether to put it on the ballot or not, let's give ourselves one more month to look at that data.
I see where you're going, but we could also do that if we get the data tomorrow or whatever, right? And if you think there's a strong possibility, then we can have a special session
We would have to
within the
call a
next
special
week or
meeting.
so, right?
I think I'm hearing Mr. Schenkel's a little uncomfortable with
Well,
understanding.
I honestly, I'd hate to say yes and let's do it, and then all of a sudden we can't. I mean, I just,
All of a sudden, we can't not put it on the ballot?
well, I mean, because on there, I mean, we have to get the total amount that we're gonna be going for, which, construction costs, interest rates, all that kind of stuff. That's why we wanted to keep it the same. Then that goes to the Department of Taxation, and they bless it that you're going over that maximum amount. Then it comes back if that's the case, and then that's when you guys will vote again. But I don't know. I mean, the way I was understanding it, all had to be like bang, bang. I mean, I'd rather call and get the actual dates so that you guys know. And we could have a special meeting if you guys really want to go down that road. I would just feel better. And then at that time, we should be able to get all the information in regards to the voter list, because we just got that. We could spend a couple days looking at that.
Is everybody going to this luncheon on the 14th?
So
Are
Todd,
you going to lunch on the 14th?
due to the interest rate, would it stay 7.19?
No, it's 7.48 now.
Yeah.
Right
Would
now.
it stay that?
Raise.
Would it stay there?
It would be higher.
What, that 7.48 would be higher?
No, well, we're doing an additional, the millage is going up, but the amount that we're collecting is the same. Because that's what the way I understand.
What he's saying is-
Is we submit that amount, that's the dollar amount that they want.
Oh, I see, okay.
So if you want,
So what we talked about last month was to raise the 49.965 million.
Yes,
What would the millage be this time?
yes.
It's gonna be 7.48. What he's also saying to you is you've probably got inflation in there, so you're gonna need to make a decision. Do we just run it for the 49.965
And live with that.
and live with that and be 2 million short or 1.5 million short?
I
Or
understand.
do you
Meaning we
want
would
to
have to
get,
cut something out of our.
Yes, you'd have
or
to
do you
cut
get
something
the
out of
one
line.
point, or do you ask for and get the additional 1.5 million? I'm making that number up. I know that they talked about, they're figuring like 0.5% interest or 0.5% on your.
We was talking with
On your
Pete
project.
at Skanska, he said to calculate 0.5% per month.
Per month.
And it
So if it's
compounds.
6 months later, I'm guessing 3%. That's where I
3%.
came up with the 1.5 million on top of my head.
Right.
Of 50.
And there's money in contingencies and all that, but still, I mean, that's over, you know what I mean? I mean, that's 1.5 million.
So could you call and verify this information tomorrow?
I can call, yeah, I'll call and get all that.
So that, if we wanted to have like a special meeting later this week.
You're gonna
we could?
need, yes, you're gonna need to have a meeting that you can give your proper notice to. And then you're gonna need to make sure that I can send you this information, but there, you have to do, Open Meetings Act, you can't discuss it or
Right.
talk about that
Yeah.
unless it's in that meeting as a group. Can't talk about it.
Right.
You guys know.
And what's the
Yeah,
time
I'm just
frame?
making sure these guys know the rules.
Yeah,
What's the time frame, Daryl?
right.
We have to have at least 24 hours. We've always given 48
We've always-
hours
To
to make sure
announce
that
a
we're
meeting.
safe to announce a meeting. Give it the same ways that we do it. So you've got a week. I can get you this information. I'm not promising it tomorrow on the data.
No, I'm just saying,
So-
I'm saying on, can we, to verify, we can pass the resolution, we don't necessarily have to put it on the,
So what he's
Valid.
saying is he would rather, we could have a meeting next week, have him work through the data.
You can have a meeting like Monday night. If you want, we can call a special meeting. You guys can look at it. The president can call a special meeting and notify the treasurer.
And then
hold on, are we
give-
saying the same thing?
So that gives Todd time to make sure that nobody's sure right now, the problem.
You don't want to do a
We don't need to-
resolution because we might be held to it. You don't
Right.
know for sure.
Is that what we're verifying?
Well-
And then that gives us another, if the answer is yes, we can pass the resolution, but we don't necessarily have to put it on the ballot.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm gonna call one, you're gonna pass a resolution to exceed the debt limitation. So they get all that stuff submitted. Then after that, if you don't wanna run it, do you have to do anything at all? And then I'm just gonna find out in there to verify interest rate, dollar amount, and then our drop dead dates, like is it due, is it the 22nd, is it February 1st?
Okay,
I mean,
and then the
I'll get all
second
of it.
phase to that will be looking at the voter data that we want to look at. To say, if the answer is yes to that, like we could
Yes.
pass the resolution and it gives us, it buys us another month. The second phase to that would be to look at that voter data.
Mhm.
Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Is that what we're saying? Okay,
If we- Yeah.
all right, so we're gonna move on tonight. We don't need to vote on anything.
No.
But Todd, you're gonna get us that information and
That'll
then,
be first, I'll see
and
what I can
then we'll
get.
make a decision if we need a special meeting from there.
And I will give you the other information that you can have while you're making that decision.
We'll have it that quick?
I'll have it to you probably within 24, 36 hours.
Right.
I just couldn't turn it around.
No, I
That
understand,
fast.
yeah,
It literally showed up this afternoon.
yeah.
So,
Okay. Anything else? It is 8:38. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? Mr. Rocker seconded. Meeting's adjourned.
all eyes.